The war in Ukraine has about 1.5 million casualties so far. And if you care like I do, I think you'll be happy with what I found in the Bible that might affect this. This is a short video about the Russia-Ukraine war, Bible passages, and how they might be used to affect and shorten the Russia-Ukraine war. Hi, I'm Jonathan, a retired electrical systems engineer, and God had led me to understand a lot of deep things in the Bible, and I think you'll be really happy with all the things that I have in this channel to show you in the future. The Bible has several passages that detail the end of the Russia-Ukraine war and how it might be hastened. When we know the end, we can know the goal for the negotiations, which the present negotiators have no set goal, but I will show you the set goal. In this video, I will briefly review the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Then I will go over the Bible passages that are somewhat related, and then I will show how these Bible passages might be used to hasten an end to the war without bloodshed, and how we can participate. Now, this is serious business, so we've got work to do. The politicians, the presidents, the political leaders, they can't stop these wars because there's underlying factors that are causing them to continue to happen. But we can stop these wars. The Bible passages essentially guarantee it, but we have to work together and really be dedicated. What I have found is the keys in the Bible and the current events of what is essentially causing and supplying these wars. First, I'll give the facts of the war and why it hasn't stopped. Second, I'll give the Bible precepts and our responsibilities that the Bible gives us that we should follow. Third, I'll show how the Ukraine conflict can be impacted with the Bible prophecy and precepts to get peace and get a solid peace. By the end of this video, we will be on our way to quickening the end of the war. This video is an outline, an in-depth video of more detailed videos to come. In summary of the Russian-Ukraine war, it kind of started in 2014 when Russia annexed 3 oblasts, Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, and really got into full activity when Russia invaded in 2023. And that really was the beginning when Russia tried to fully invade and take over even the capital Kiev in very short order, but were unsuccessful. So Putin has described this as a war of attrition, meaning that both sides are really getting hurt, but Russia hopes to wear out Ukraine much faster than Russia wears out. But whether that's happening is very debatable. Both sides are really getting hurt, and Russia has lost like 1 million men. Altogether, there's 1.5 million men on both sides, and Russia has spent something like $1 trillion on this war. So it's kind of ridiculous what's going on with this war. There's really big losses, and it's kind of nonsense to my mind. So what motivates Russia, Putin, and in Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, and even other war states? Why do they keep fighting and just losing so much property? What motivates them? Why do they keep going and losing so much? And how can they keep going? How can these countries like Russia and Iran and the Houthis, and how can they keep going and just want to keep fighting, like Hamas and all these guys? So how can they keep going? I'll tell you. They've got a lot of money coming in from oil and gas sales. Russia's primarily funding their war. They're supplying their war with men and materials through the money from oil and gas sales. And likewise, Iran is selling a lot of oil and gas. Iran sells to other countries and a lot to China and elsewhere. And even though there are sanctions that the U.S. and Europeans have put against Russia and Iran and places like that, they still sell to third parties like India, Turkey, and elsewhere that remix the oil and refine it and then sell it sometimes a lot to the West and to Europe and America. There's a lot of oil and gas going to Europe and America that is really funding the war. And Europe is sending Russia 3 times as much money for oil and gas purchases as what they are sending to Ukraine in weapons value. So there's 3 times as much money going to Russia for oil and gas sales that funds the war as what Europe is sending to Ukraine to fight the war. And America is also participating in that. America's buying a lot of oil and gas from third parties, some directly from Russia, but some from third parties in India and Turkey and elsewhere. So we can't keep doing this. Russia gets about 60% of its revenues from oil and gas sales directly, but then they also get more revenues from weapons sales. But who's buying the weapons? The people buying the weapons are like India, Turkey, and Algeria, Egypt, Venezuela. A lot of these countries are funding their weapons purchases from Russia by oil and gas sales to America and Europe. So it doesn't make sense for America and Europe to keep funding the war against our principles. So international oil and gas sales of Russia and third-party countries are directly funding Russia and others' wars and weapons around the world. Now, if Russia and Iran weren't making so much money from their oil and gas sales, if the price of oil was much lower, they wouldn't be able to supply these wars. And OPEC, if they would produce more oil, the price of oil and the price of fuel would drop, and Russia wouldn't be able to supply its war machine. So why doesn't OPEC supply more to stop these wars? Well, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has said that America doesn't set the price of oil, we do. Trump has tried to get OPEC to pump more oil to reduce the price of oil so Russia couldn't fund its war to stop this war, but OPEC has refused. And OPEC also helps keep the price of oil high for Iran so they can fight against the West and Israel. They have the money to fight the West and Israel, and that's how Iran and the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas, that's where they're getting all their money for all these wars. So it's the price of oil that's funding all these wars. And as long as they have a lot of money, they have no reason to stop. And that's why Ayatollah Khamenei, he says, well, okay, you hurt us, you bombed us, but we're going to keep going. Because they keep selling oil. They have plenty of money. The price of oil is up in the summer driving season because American consumers are driving all over and buying a lot of gasoline. So America and Europe are major funders of this war in Ukraine. As I said earlier, the Bible specifies how the Russia-Ukraine war will end, and Russia will have in the long run less territory than it has now. Now it has 5 provinces or oblasts, and in the end it will only have 3, according to the Bible prophecy. I will go into a lot more detail in the future about the Bible prophecy and the Ukraine war and how it will end. But just to summarize, in Daniel 7:5, it says there's a bear with 3 ribs in its mouth that says, arise and devour much flesh. These 3 ribs are 3 parts of a country. They're 3 parts of Ukraine. They're 3 provinces or oblasts in Ukraine that instigated the war in Ukraine. They instigated for Russia to invade Ukraine. And those 3 were Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea. And it appears from what the Bible says, these will be a good long-term solution. But Russia right now is involved in 5 provinces or oblasts. They have major portions, so they will have to cut back. And why will they cut back? Well, that's what the Bible also talks about. Russia will have to compromise. But why will they compromise? Why would they want to have less than what they have now? Because it's going to be a better peace, and they'll be forced to compromise. But it will be better for Russia, and it will be even much better for Putin. So let's see what the Bible says about this. There are several Bible prophetic messages from inside and outside the Bible that have convinced me that this narrative, this course that I'm explaining, will occur. And here are several of the Bible passages that really deal with the underlying causes of the Russia-Ukraine war. Genesis 9:6 and 7. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God made he man. And you, be fruitful and multiply. Bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. So don't be killing people, but be having children, and fill the earth with children, and have happy families. Use the fuel for prosperity and pleasant houses and things, rather than for fighting and killing and misery. It's nonsense. God has provided oil revenues throughout the world for countries to be prosperous, but so many countries have used the oil resources for war. It's just senseless. Ephesians 5:6 and 7. There will be the wrath of God upon the children of disobedience. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. Don't be partners with the children of disobedience who are killing people. Killers will reap the terrible wrath of God, so don't partner with them or you'll get the same fate. Ephesians 5:11. Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Have no fellowship, no association with killers, but call them out and talk against them and rebuke them. Genesis 18:19, when God is talking about Abraham and his children and his seed. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. God's covenant with Abraham to do justice and judgment depend on his children doing justice and judgment and not partnering with killers, to be doing peaceful things and helping the poor and impoverished to not be victims. So I am following the spirit of Abraham. I'm calling on the seed of Abraham to do justice and judgment, to not be partners with killers, and to not purchase oil and gas, and to reduce the price of oil and gas by not purchasing it, to use that to stop this killing and to act for the poor and the victims of this war, to be participating in the killing of innocent people. We need to get on with that and stop buying so much oil and gas and really reduce as much as possible the purchases of oil and gas, and the price will go down dramatically. Russia is funding its war. They make a lot of money when the price of oil, the crude per barrel, is about $40 a barrel and above. Right now, mid-July, it's about $60, $65 a barrel. So they're making $20 a barrel. They're making billions and billions of dollars to fund their war. The price of oil some time ago was down to $45, $50 a barrel. At that price, Russia has a hard time funding its war machine. They both buy weapons and buy people, even from other countries. There's people coming from all over the world to fight with Russia for the money. And then they just get killed. They're just cannon fodder. They're just used to use up Ukraine's weapons. It's a war of attrition. So we need to stop buying so much oil and gas to stop the killing. Because when we reduce the price of oil down to like $40 or even $35 a barrel, this will stop the war in Ukraine. The only real way to stop Russia and other warring countries like Iran and the Houthi rebels and all those, the only real way to stop them from fighting is to cut their revenues, to cut their money coming in for weapons, by cutting the oil and gas revenues, by stop buying so much oil and gas. And we can do it. We have done it. During the COVID era, we cut a lot. So the only and best way to stop Russia and other warring countries from invasions and their fighting is to cut their revenues, especially through cutting their oil sales and buying oil and gas from third countries, India and Turkey and other countries that are refining and remixing the oil. Ending these wasteful wars will be a blessing to everybody involved, and they can prosper and purchase goods and food and have families and grow their populations. It will be a blessing to everybody worldwide. So by using common sense, righteous Bible principles, we can reduce the use and purchase of oil and gas and cause righteousness and prosperity throughout the world. And as we reduce the price, it will even help people who have to use oil to spend less money. And we can put that money in the bank. You know, Adam and Eve, all they had to do was to do nothing. And that's Americans, Europeans, all they have to do is not spend a lot of money on oil and gas, not go on a lot of expensive vacations, not fly jets all over the world, but just stay at home and not use oil and gas as much as possible. We'll stop these wars. There are 4 good reasons to believe that these actions will end the Russia-Ukraine war successfully and have a good long-term peace. First, God has specified it in Bible prophecy. He has specified the end of the war, and it's less than now. How can that happen? It has to be that Russia is forced to stop fighting. Secondly, Russia will not have the funds to continue the war. Thirdly, Russia will know that the citizens of America and Europe are very much against the war, and they will be more prone to peaceful interactions with Russia through prosperity and trade. So it will be good for Russia. Fourthly, God's dictated alignment of the final negotiated peace, as shown in Daniel 7:5, is in alignment with the people, their emotions, and history, so that these people will be happy with the result and will go for a good long-term peace. And it is these feelings that cause the conflicts to begin with. So there's only 2 things we need to do, and a third, which is really beneficial. The first is to use much less oil and gas as much as possible. Use bicycles, get healthier, put the money in the bank. And the second, to tell others to do the same thing, to tell others. It says to reprove, to rebuke people who are not reducing the oil and gas as they should. That's what we need to do. We need to tell people, we need to tell our political leaders to put on sanctions as strongly as possible on countries who are reselling Russian oil and gas, to not allow those products to come through so that we can not buy them. Thirdly, we need to pray and be as righteous as possible, because the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. If we're righteous and pray hard and really want this war to stop, we can stop it. We, the people, can stop it. God doesn't recognize man's armies as important at all. The Spirit of God of the people can stop these wars. So when the people's feelings and emotions are in harmony with the solution, it will be a good long-term peace. So like, subscribe, and comment, and come and see the videos that are coming in the next few days. I wish you well.